Welcome to the second Diskussionscafè on participation and empowerment of people of color in Germany. This is part of Joliba's Diskussionscafè, and today we will actually be looking at anti-Black resentment and resilience of people of color in Germany. This discussion actually provides participants or guests the opportunity to share their experiences and perspectives regarding the participation and empowerment of Black people in Germany. The discussion is actually a space of exchange and networking aimed at jointly developing strategies to strengthening the community. Our guest, or my guest today, is actually an experienced policy advisor and a communication expert, Valerie Viban, who will actually tell us more about himself and his work. Together, we will be looking at the topic, as I said, anti-Black, anti-resentment and resilience of people of color in Germany. My name is Nyima Jadama. I am the host of Nyma's Spantova, an unfiltered podcast on Alex Berlin of the Canal. I'm happy to host this together with my guest, Valerie. Good afternoon, how are you doing?
Thank you very much, Nyima. It's again so much of a pleasure to be here in the global way in this co-lab space, and I'd like to highlight why this space is very important to me. You know, from my history and coming to Germany, I knew that one of the most dreaded spaces to be in as a Black man was Görlitzer Park, and that is why no matter how busy I am, if I'm invited always to come to Görlitzer Park for this project, I always make sure I come because it transformed a lot in my mind, and I love it that we have this transformative potential that we're sharing another story about Görlitzer Park, that we're using this as a space for decolonization, for empowerment of Black people, to paint a different image of the Black people in this German community. So I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah. You are an experienced policy advisor. This is what you study, and this is your work area. And on the topic, I wanted to ask you, like, what are the most significant barriers that Black people actually face when it comes to meaningful participation, or actually trying to get a space to speak up?
Thank you. I think that Black people, from how we are appearing, is already a barrier in itself. But I like to look at it in a very structural sense, right? So I want to think of structural barriers. I want to think of integrational barriers. I want to think of cultural barriers and all of that. And because when you highlight them differently, then you can know how to tackle them differently. One of the biggest barriers that you have as a new migrant in Germany, if I start from there, is understanding where you are. You know, they tell you welcome to an extent, but they don't give you the keys to the house, and so you have to start finding them. If I would use, for instance, if you think of the political situation happening in Germany now, with the anxiety about the falling of the government and stuff like this, at least I've had a lot of my Black friends calling me to find out, what does this mean for us? What does this mean for us? But this is because over a short period of time too, awareness has improved a bit before it was not like this. So we're here, but the effort, the opportunities to get integrated and understand the politics, understand the pitching and how we navigate inside has not been there, and then it tends to create itself some form of a barrier always. I remember, for instance, that there are a lot of my African friends, for instance, who would vote the CDU, not because they understand CDU politics, but simply because it's Christian Democratic Union. And for them, since they don't understand anything in the system, the word Christian is good enough. So being able to understand what barriers exist, what the politics is saying, so there's a communicational barrier there, there's a language barrier, you know. Germany is one of the countries on earth which advertises herself as a migration country, but to whom the language German is still a requirement for living here.
You actually talk about barriers and structures, and all of this at the end, it actually leads to a strategy. If you strategize, then you are able to either get your space or get recommended. And in terms of recommendation, I don't know if we should call that nepotism, or you just need to be recommended because usually such is that, oh, okay, that's only in Africa, but then most of us, this is also one of the culture shocks that we have, that you either have to be recommended in a very nice word that they use instead of calling it nepotism, right? But then on that note, like looking at strategizing things on strategies, I wanted to ask, like, what strategies or policies do you believe are most effective when it comes to empowering Black communities in Germany, particularly in urban areas like Berlin?
Strategies here will be two sides. Are we trying to think of strategies as in what the government of Berlin, for instance, should be doing? Or is it what community mobilization should be doing, like what we're doing here? Because it's two sides. You know, what we're doing here is, I've known this project for over 4 years, and this is an empowerment space mostly for young people of color. And I've seen most of them get more politically active from here, get more savvy with using media as a tool to change. But this is what community mobilization is doing, because in Berlin there's so many of these kind of movements pushing things. But should this be the only thing? No. The bigger thing is changing things in those structures. I think we're getting to a level where it should become compulsory that every institution offering a public service should have a diversity management strategy. This means not diversity washing, but effective diversity management, where they begin to have, just like we have quotas for gender, we should begin to have quotas for peoples. I know people will tell me that with law you cannot quote this because it will lead to an accusation of discrimination or another. But if we want to move things, we must be intentional about it. I believe in intentionality. So diversity quotas in organizations, for me, is a must-have.
I mean, you actually spoke about the challenges, which of course comes with resilience. And resilience can't be overcome without challenges. And I was thinking, how do you think as Black people, what should we do aside being resilient to actually overcome these challenges?
Thank you. That's the favorite part of the question always, because when you complain a lot about the system, it seems like you don't have anything to do to move.
Yeah.
System complaint and damnation is easy because you point fingers at the other people. But now, what about what you can do? And I like this part. We African people must seize the space and tell our stories again, or rethink our stories, or go back to our history and bring our stories forward. We must remind ourselves where we're coming from first, of that strength that is born from within, and not let the society where we are tell us who we are, because this is not what we are. You know, if you're here now, you're coming from several generations pushing you up. What should we do? This means making use of opportunities, seizing opportunities. If you are not invited to you don't receive a seat on the table, bring your chair along, as the African feminist movements like to say now. You know, don't wait to be invited to the table. If they say there's no seat, bring your chair along. This means that we should learn to occupy the spaces where we are. We should populate the German language courses where they exist. Okay. We should take these spaces important. We should educate ourselves, first about ourselves and about our communities and the spaces where we live. No one will come and tell you why AfD is bad for you, or why this political party, what is their agenda and everything. You need to make use of the opportunities. Internet is there. You need to make use of the several years of community building that your ancestors put ahead of you. Community mobilization was always part of us already for a long time. We need to learn how to use that here.
Thank you so very much for this lively exchange and valuable contributions from you, my guest Valerie, from all of you that actually contributed. Our dialogue today is a step towards a more inclusive and a fair society, I believe, and I hope that we will actually continue to work together to strengthening the visibility and participation of Black people in Germany. That's actually all we have for you on today's topic on anti-Black resentment and resilience of the people of color in Germany. My name is Nyima Jadama. That's all for this.